What is your best "my friend is dating a terrible person and nobody can get through to them" story? This might not be what this thread is looking for, but in this case the friend was me. My ex-wife would invite a couple of her friends over once a week for dinner. Whatever else she was an excellent cook. She was also sleeping with at least 3 other guys, and carrying on an online affair. I suspect her one friend knew about it, and tried to tell me about it over dinner on more than one occasion. She explained that she had a friend who was getting married, but her fiancé didn't know that she was cheating on him all the time. With a bunch of different guys. And I would say, "Well, why don't you tell him?" And she would go, "It's complicated. I know him well enough, but she's been my friend for years and I don't want to alienate that friendship." It was a recurring topic of conversation at weekly dinner. We were divorced by the time I realized she was talking about me. They each have a daughter from a past relationship. Her daughter lives with them and gets everything under the sun. His daughter is treated like an outsider when she has visits. Both girls are 4, they were supposed to each get a tablet for Christmas, so I bought them each a tablet case as their gift. It wasn't until Christmas morning that I realized the GF's daughter was the only one to get the tablet. More often than not, when his visit with his daughter is approaching, the GF picks fights with him and he ends up not getting his daughter. If it's not a scheduled visit for the guy and his daughter, the GF picks fights on Thursdays or Fridays, they break up for the weekend, then she comes crawling back on Sunday night. This usually happens immediately after he pays all of their bills. Now they have a child together and she made him quit his well-paying job with benefits to stay home with the baby so she could waitress. He decided to go to school part-time, an hour commute, and she refuses to take care of their daughter on her days off, so he had to leave school. I've also recently learned that even though she gets $1,100 per month in family allowance, plus her pay and tips and his parental leave, they never have any money for their baby, and I've learned the reason for this is she has a coke habit. He is my brother, and when I try to explain things to him and tell him he needs out, he fights with me and calls me crazy and I'm the reason for all his stress. Edit to add, holy crap. I had no idea my comment would blow up like this. TBH, he's beaten me down mentally so badly about it that I started to believe I was over-exaggerating. About the coke habit, I should have said the reason is an alleged coke habit. The person who told me this is best friends with the girlfriend's ex's new wife, and I literally just heard it for the first time a day ago. I am the aunt, not uncle, and my involvement has to be limited at this point. I'm 30 weeks pregnant and high risk after a traumatic birth with my second baby that led to mental health issues of my own, which I am treating, so I need to keep my stress level as low as possible. To everyone saying CPS needs to be involved, he only sees his daughter 50 hours out of the month, if that. It may be hard to believe, but he used to be a great, very involved parent, until he met this girl. She slowly started to isolate him and use different tactics as to why he couldn't have his visits. It started with him convincing him he didn't need his own car, then refusing to let him use their car to take his visitation. She's extremely abusive with him, mostly psychologically, and although that doesn't excuse his behavior with his daughter, it's hard for him to see his situation from the inside. I tried many times to help him understand how fucked up all of this is, but as of right now, I'm 30 weeks pregnant and very high risk for many reasons, and I literally can't handle the stress of it anymore. The last time he argued with me about all of this, I got so stressed there was no fetal movement for 8 hours, and I had to go to the hospital to make sure we were okay. To everyone saying I should take custody, my niece's maternal grandparents have full custody of her. About the GF affecting his visits, he lives an hour away from his daughter, and when they fight, the GF takes the vehicle, leaving him no way to get to his visits. I will try to read through more comments as I go. Although my brother is a POS that desperately needs help, my niece is greatly loved and cared for by her guardians, her maternal grandparents, and she's treated like gold. If myself or my mother takes the visits, my brother passes up. Your brother is a shitty father for letting some tail get in the way of his daughter. That's very judgmental of me to say, I admit. But this is the one story here that has genuinely pissed me off. I hope you get through to him eventually. His daughter will hold this against him for her entire life if this keeps up. I watched my best friend's wife, thankfully now ex, systematically dismantle him. It was horrible to watch. I was vocal about how much it bothered me and it drove a wedge between us, and some years passed where we didn't speak to each other. We have since reconnected and she is out of the picture. It was hard hearing him say, "Dude, you were the only one who told me it was a bad idea and I pushed you away, but I'm glad he saw the light." Soon after getting together, she moved into his apartment. She turned his spare bedroom, office into her music room. Next she turned his garage into her yoga studio. She never did yoga. She preferred his car but wouldn't let him drive hers, meaning there were many nights where he was stuck at home while she was out with her friends. She controlled his drinking. The few times he was out he was allowed one drink, which she usually drank, while she got totally rat-faced. She often stayed over at other guy friends' houses cause it's too late to drive home. She planned an elaborate holiday trip, which he paid for, to visit her ex. Relationship lasted a little under a year before she broke up with him, because he turned 36 and she only dates guys who are 35. Damn, she swiped him like a no-limit platinum credit card. That thing must have been good or something. Jesus, this is a horrible story. F for that year of Armand's time and money. My sister-in-law has always had weight issues thanks to her parents who always called her "little fatty" growing up. At 21 she went rummaging through humanity's garbage can and brought home the first piece of shit to show her any attention. Within 9 months of meeting him they were married and within a year she had his baby. This guy has it all. He's openly rude to her and her family in public and in front of her parents. He has about a 5th grade education and zero plans to improve himself. He has a baby with another woman who he never sees and never tries to. He has a drinking and gambling problem. He also makes sure it's a his money, her money situation and gives all his money to his parents, who are better off, his nieces, and on booze, gambling, so my Sil, who does now make a lot, basically supports them. He insists on living in the shittiest, most dangerous part of town, even though they've dealt with several break-ins and they could live closer to her parents for less than they pay now. Speaking of them, they're basically raising his baby because she works and he just stays out as much as possible. I figured they wouldn't last a year, but now I fear she'll never leave him and the kid is going to turn out super fucked up. Edit, by sister-in-law I mean my wife's sister married the piece of shit. Humanity's garbage can. The guy loved bragging about what a dick he was. Treated her like shit and never seemed interested in her, until he found out how rich she was. One of her dad's companies got sold and the news was public, so her dad couldn't keep his name off the Forbes list. Then, he publicly declared they're together, after 3 years of toying with her. At every family event he was at, he just treated it like one big networking bonanza. Doesn't seem to have a clear job, but claims he's in finance. Claimed to be working remotely while freeloading at her parents' place for 6 weeks and happily treating all their household staff like they were his employees. We all tried telling her, and even though we're like sisters, she actually told me, "It's okay if you don't like him, you don't have to." Her father reminded her that it's in their family constitution that any potential spouse must be thoroughly vetted by private investigators first. He gave her the courtesy of warning her that he was going to do it in exchange for her agreement that she won't tell him while the investigation is ongoing. She confidently agreed, completely believing he'd come clean. Yeah, the asshole was cheating on her. She was a mess for the longest time, but fortunately, she's fine now and married to the most awesome guy ever. How rich do I need to be to have one of these family constitutions? I get the feeling Dad hated him too and dug around until he could find a way to get rid of that douchebag. When I was in high school, my best friend started dating a fellow that was known to be a poss, but she was in love and we couldn't convince her that it was a bad idea. He started beating her almost immediately, but that didn't deter her at all. He would take her car and pick up other girls, but they were just friends. She got him a cell phone in her name and ran up enormous bills that she couldn't pay. He gave her herpes, and we were like, okay, maybe now she will leave him. Nope. He was street racing in her car and smashed it up and she forgave him, even though she couldn't afford to get it fixed. He took all her money. We begged and pleaded with her to leave him and she said she would, but then secretly kept seeing him. Then one night we went to a community dance and he started strangling her in front of everyone. It took 3 huge guys to get him off her and the police were called. He ended up leaving her after that and she was devastated. The hold he had over her was crazy. And what was even more crazy were the girls that got together with him after all this happened, knowing fully well what he was like. Insanity. My best friend and I met through our boyfriends. One weekend we went on a girls' trip, just the two of us, to my parents' holiday house. Our plans were to go hiking and chill out on our own, however he called her 2 days in and started verbally abusing her for no reason and was yelling that he was going to drive the 300 km and pick her up. She calmed him down and I drove her home so that she could break up with him. She didn't. So fast forward 3 months, we went out to the local bars and he was going to come later and pick her up when she was ready. My boyfriend was there with us because he was my designated driver, so he was making sure we were safe, not that we needed it. About 2 hours into the night her BF came into one of the bars and demanded she go home with him. He got quite abusive and despite me trying to get her to come home with me she went home with him. She's still with him and they're now house hunting. FFS. Edit. OMFG people. I am not going to read every comment but I will just say this. Verbal abuse is still abuse. She does not enjoy the drama and attention. No, my boyfriend is not still friends with this guy, they talk to an extent, but he never initiates anything. And it would be interesting to hear his side of the story. Does his side of the story actually matter? That night was like a switch was flipped. He was completely fine 1 minute when he was with my boyfriend, then 2 minutes later he came in and started demanding she gets the fuck up and leaves with him. You people really should not be judging if you've never been in her situation. Buddy of mine started dating a stripper and was absolutely smitten with her. There's nothing wrong with that profession, but he was just kind of at a different place in life than her and we all knew there was no way it was going to work out. He can party, but she was absolutely wild. We all tried to gently point this out to him, but he wouldn't hear any of it and got upset with us for trying to sabotage his happy relationship. As things moved forward, she started having angry outbursts and literally just running away almost every time we'd hang out. Still, he persisted with the relationship. Eventually, she was ousted from her apartment for not paying rent, and to all of our dismay, my friend invited her to move in with him. I've never face-palmed so hard in my life, but he's an adult and can make his own decisions. It ended several weeks later when he came home to find she had thrown all of his clothes and belongings out the window onto the sidewalk in a tantrum and was trying to kick him out of his own apartment. He finally saw the light. Funny side note, a week before he met her, my girlfriend at the time and I were out drinking and she commented on how she'd always kind of wanted to go to a strip club, so we made the drunk decision to call a limo and go. It turned out to be the club my friend's ex worked at on a night she was a regular, so I probably saw her boobs before he did. He cheated on her multiple times. He was emotionally and physically abusive and he slowly turned her into an insecure, crazy bitch. She once slapped me because we were in a club and he said something to me and I responded, but because it was loud I had to talk in his ear and she thought I kissed him? She moved countries for him, allowed him to live rent-free while doing nothing. Meanwhile she was working 2 jobs to support them. He'd break shit in the house whenever they got in a fight. He brought girls back to her place and fucked them in her bed and sent her pictures while she's at work. They got pregnant and she got an abortion, but he didn't go with her or support her emotionally or financially. After the abortion, when they fight, he'd tell her she was a murderer and killed his baby. They're still together. 10-year week. Typical toxic relationship right up to the point of fucking other girls and sending her pictures. That is insane. Who could possibly stay after that? I once dated a girl that told me the guy she previously dated, who used to be a mutual acquaintance, sent her mom videos of them fucking to get back at her for not doing something for him, before we had met. This was a drop in the bucket of all the things he did. She then went on to cheat on me with him. And she's still seeing him despite the fact that he has a girlfriend of which she's aware of. They deserve each other, is what you're saying. We were 17. He met her at a Walmart. This girl was a hypocrite if there ever was one. Holier than thou and judgmental, but also trying to get knocked up at 16 by anyone she could proposition, including his friends, and my brother. She was also a control freak, jealous, you know the drill. We begged and begged him to get far, far away from her. Who wants their friend to be a teen dad and tied to a loony forever? The best we could get from him was that he promised not to get her pregnant. Yeah, no. She was pregnant within a year and they got married. Had 2 more kids but finally broke up a few years ago. We're 28 now and the kicker is he still won't divorce her. She lives with another guy and had that guy's baby, but my friend just won't file the papers. And she won't either because of a bullshit law that requires him to pay for a baby that isn't his, because they're married and the law says it is even if genetics say otherwise. It's both sad and frustrating. Edit, getting a lot of comments about the child support thing. According to our state law, he is legally married to her, therefore legally the father of any of her children, therefore legally on the hook for all of them, financially. He could hire a lawyer, file for divorce, and get a court-ordered paternity test that would establish his paternity and no longer have to pay for the one that isn't his. He would have to divorce her for that to happen, not just get the test. However, like I said, he won't file. Why, I don't know. I certainly have my theories, but until he decides to do that, he's financially responsible for 4 kids even though he is only the father of 3. Edit Part 2, they are separated and had court-mediated child support established. I heard from another friend she tried to add not his kid to it. I do not know if it worked or if it's even true. I only know what I've been told by him or other friends, so I could absolutely be missing information. I do know that technically Iowa law could allow it, and if she knew that, she would make sure to give it a shot. She is not a nice human. He met her at a Walmart. Thanks for putting the TLDR at the top. Jesus. We had one friend in our group, who was this introverted but sweet guy. He hooked up with a girl we called the troll. I don't quite know what he saw in her, maybe he was just lonely, but she was unattractive, unpleasant, unintelligent, and most importantly, she was terribly domineering. Like she was telling him off and telling him what to in public. I dread to think what it would be like in private. She was also cutting him off from his friends, especially female ones. They're married with twins now, and none of our friend group are in contact with him anymore. Last I saw HIW was his engagement party. I can't speak exactly for how the male brain works in those situations, but I can relate it to myself. There was a girl I liked during college. We went on a lot of dates but never were official. In the end she dated someone else after meeting 2/3 guys at once on different days. Of course it was devastating, but I still thought she was the most perfect thing ever. Now that I look back on it, she wasn't. She was pretty rude. Fairly under average attractiveness and did a scummy thing behind our backs. But she gave me a chance to go on dates, etc. You said this guy was introverted. She probably did something simple for him that no other girl had done. When in that mindset, any girl can seem like the one. I may be wrong, it just sounds like exactly what happened to me when all my girlfriends were like her. Really? Thanks for watching our video. If you like it, please smash the subscribe and like button to support the channel so that we can create more quality content in the future.